The tragedy that shook humanity. The colony of Eldoria Prime was a place of peace. It was a planet where families thrived, where children laughed and played under the twin suns. Humanity had built something beautiful there, a world free from war, free from fear. But peace never lasts forever. One night, without warning, the sky burned red. Giant warships, black as shadows, appeared in orbit. They belonged to the Zarkith Dominion, a brutal alien empire that ruled over dozens of species with an iron fist. No one knew why they had come. No demands, no warnings, only death. The first attack came fast. Orbital strikes shattered buildings. The ground trembled as massive energy blasts tore through streets, leaving behind fire and destruction. The colony's defense systems fought back, but they were no match for the Zarkith fleet. The aliens came down in dropships, armored warriors marching through the flames. People ran. Parents grabbed their children, trying to escape, but the aliens were faster. They didn't kill everyone. No, they were selective. They came for the children. The Zarkith soldiers stormed homes, ripping crying children from their parents' arms. Fathers fought. Mothers screamed. But it was no use. The aliens were ruthless, their armor thick, their weapons deadly. Anyone who resisted was cut down instantly. A boy named Ethan Carter, only 8 years old, hid under a table as his father fought to protect him. But the Zarkith were too strong. Ethan watched in horror as a massive alien soldier, standing over 8 feet tall, lifted his father by the throat and crushed his windpipe like paper. His mother tried to shield him, but the soldier grabbed Ethan with a cold, metallic hand. He kicked and screamed, but nothing helped. He was taken, like so many others. The Terran Defense Fleet, humanity's main military force, received the distress call, but they were too far away. By the time they arrived, the Zarkith ships were already leaving, vanishing into hyperspace with their stolen cargo. The colony was in ruins. Thousands were dead. Hundreds of children were missing. When the soldiers of the Terran fleet landed, they found only grief. Parents knelt in the rubble, their hands empty, their eyes full of despair. Some cried. Some screamed in rage. Some simply stood, silent, as if their souls had been taken along with their children. But grief would not be the end of this story. Among the soldiers who arrived that day was Commander Adrian Holt, a veteran of many battles. He had seen war. He had seen death. But never like this. He walked through the wreckage, his fists clenched so tight they turned white. He saw the burnt remains of homes, the shattered streets, the desperate faces of parents who had lost everything. And he saw the mark the Zarkith had left behind. A blood-red insignia burned into the side of a destroyed building. A message, a warning. But Adrian didn't see it as a warning. He saw it as a challenge. Standing among the ruins, he made a vow. They took our children. Now, we take everything from them. Word of the attack spread across human space. At first, there was shock. Then, there was anger. And finally, there was resolve. The United Terran Council, humanity's ruling body, debated their response. Some wanted diplomacy, others wanted restraint. But the people wanted war. And Adrian Holt was ready to lead it. Unknown to the galaxy, humanity had been preparing for a moment like this. For years, they had built Project Revenant, a secret fleet of experimental warships, hidden from the eyes of the Galactic Council. The Zarkith thought humans were weak, that they could attack without consequences. They were wrong. Deep in the heart of the Sol system, the war factories roared to life. Weapons were loaded. Ships were prepared. Soldiers were trained. Humanity was mobilizing. But for Adrian Holt, this was not just war. This was personal. He had lost friends. He had seen too much suffering. And now he had only one mission left in life. Find the Zarkith. Destroy them. Bring the children home. And make sure they never, ever dare to touch humanity again. Humanity's secret weapon. The stars above Earth burned bright, but beneath them, In the shadows of deep space, humanity was preparing for war. Commander Adrian Holt stood on the bridge of the TDS Vengeance, a warship unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The holographic screen before him displayed the last known location of the Zarkith fleet, a path leading deep into enemy territory, straight to the heart of their empire. The Terran Defense Fleet had always been seen as second-rate by the other galactic species. The Galactic Council considered humanity weak, insignificant, and fragile. The Zarkith had believed the same. That was their greatest mistake. For decades, in secret military bases hidden across the Sol system, humanity had been preparing for a war no one saw coming. A classified military project, known only as Project Revenant, had been developing new technologies, stealth warships, advanced eye-controlled fighters, and weapons so powerful they could shatter entire fleets in seconds. The Council had urged peace. The people had demanded war. Now, war had come. The hunt begins. Adrian's mission was clear. Find the missing children. Destroy the Zarkith. A team of hand-picked elite soldiers stood ready. Among them was Lieutenant Sarah Kane, a cybernetic combat specialist, and Captain Darius Voss, an expert in guerrilla warfare. They had fought in battles before, but nothing like this. Their target was a remote Zarkith-controlled planet, Sifos 9, a heavily guarded military outpost. Intelligence suggested this was where the stolen human children had been taken. But there was something else. A disturbing message had been intercepted. It wasn't just about capturing children. The Zarkith were experimenting on them. Adrian's blood ran cold when he heard those words. This wasn't just war anymore. This was a rescue mission. And the Zarkith were about to learn what it meant to provoke humanity's wrath. The first move, a ghost fleet in the dark. The Vengeance, along with a fleet of cloaked warships, slipped silently through the void of space, unseen and undetected. The Zarkith believed humans were slow, weak, predictable. They had no idea humanity had built the perfect weapon against them. The stealth technology in the Revenant fleet was unlike anything the Zarkith had ever encountered. Their scanners showed only empty space, but hidden within that emptiness was death itself. Adrian stood on the bridge, watching as Sifos 9 appeared on the screen. A barren, hostile world, surrounded by Zarkith warships. A direct assault would be suicide. But Adrian had no intention of fighting fair. Kane, Voss, prepare the infiltration team. We're going in silent. We find the children. We get them out. Then we burn this place to the ground. The war had only just begun. The first strike, silent but deadly. The void of space was silent, but humanity's wrath moved within it, unseen. The TDS Vengeance and its fleet of stealth warships hovered just beyond the enemy scanners, invisible to the Zarkith forces guarding Sifos 9. Below, the planet was nothing but darkness and steel, a prison world where stolen human children were held captive. Commander Adrian Holt stood at the drop bay doors, helmet locked in place, his pulse steady. Around him, his team, the best of the best, prepared for the mission. Their objective was simple: infiltrate the Zarkith base, locate the human children, eliminate every Zarkith in their way. Failure was not an option. The drop bay doors hissed open. Beyond them, the frozen night of Sifos 9 stretched endlessly. Adrian turned to his team, his voice firm over the comms. We go in quiet. No alarms. No mercy. And with that, they jumped, landing in the heart of the beast. They fell like ghosts through the sky, their black armor blending into the void. No engines, no signals, just pure, controlled descent. At the last second, grav thrusters engaged, slowing their fall. They landed soundlessly on the outer platform of the Zarkith research facility. Towers of dark metal loomed over them, and alien guards patrolled the area, unaware that death had already arrived. Adrian signaled. The team moved. Shadows in the dark, they struck with precision. Knives slid into alien throats, silenced rounds found their marks. One by one, The Zarkith soldiers fell without a sound. Inside the facility, things were worse than they imagined. The nightmare within. As they pushed deeper, the halls reeked of chemicals, and something far worse, burnt flesh. They found cells lined with force fields, each one containing a human child. Weak, pale, some barely breathing. Sarah Kane knelt beside a young boy, his body covered in strange scars. Experimentation marks. Adrian clenched his fists, his vision burning red. They didn't just take them, they're turning them into something else. Then the alarms blared. The Zarkith knew they were here. The silent phase was over. Now, it was time for war. The firestorm begins. The silence shattered. The Zarkith base on Xyphos 9 roared to life as alarms blared, red lights flashing across the steel corridors. The enemy finally realized the truth. Humans were inside their stronghold. But it was already too late. Commander Adrian Holt lifted his rifle and fired, the first shot of the real battle. His team, already in position, unleashed a storm of gunfire. Suppressed stealth had been their entry, but now, they'd burned everything down. Monsters in the dark. The air was thick with smoke and blood. Zarkith warriors rushed from every corridor, their reptilian eyes filled with rage. But the Terran strike team was faster. They moved with purpose, clearing the way toward the holding cells where human children were imprisoned. Then, the door at the end of the hallway hissed open. Something stepped out. Not Zarkith, not human. Adrian froze. His heart pounded. The figure standing before them was a child, but not the same child they had come to rescue. The boy's eyes glowed with a strange, unnatural blue light. Metal implants ran down his arms, and his fingers flexed like claws. He looked stronger, faster, deadlier. The Zarkith hadn't just experimented on them. They had turned them into weapons. Sarah Kane took a step forward, her voice soft but urgent. "Kid, we're here to take you home." The child's head tilted. Then, he attacked. Betrayal of flesh and steel. The enhanced child moved like a blur, crossing the distance in seconds. His fist slammed into Captain Darius Voss, sending the hardened soldier flying into a wall. Another door opened. More children stepped out. All of them enhanced. All of them programmed to kill. The Zarkith weren't just holding them hostage. They had turned them into their own personal army. Adrian didn't hesitate. He raised his rifle. Non-lethal shots. We take them down, but we don't kill them. The strike team adjusted fire, using shock rounds and disabling weapons. But the Zarkith soldiers didn't care. They opened fire, forcing the human team to fight on two fronts, against their enemies and against their own kind. Chaos erupted. Grenades exploded. Smoke filled the air. Adrian ducked behind cover as a plasma bolt nearly took his head off. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was survival. A desperate plan. Sarah Kane activated a hacking module on her wrist, trying to override the controlled implants in the children's brains. But it was taking too long. Too much fire. Too many enemies. Adrian made a decision. "Kane, get those kids under control. The rest of you, follow me. We're taking this place apart." The only way to win now was to destroy the facility itself. Adrian and his team pushed forward, deeper into the heart of the base. They reached the central power core, a massive fusion reactor. If they could rig it to overload, the entire facility would be reduced to ashes. Adrian slammed a charge onto the reactor. Detonation in 5 minutes. We move no. The final stand begins. But before they could escape, the Zarkith general arrived. Towering over them, his armor gleamed under the flashing red lights. His voice was a deep growl, filled with amusement. "You humans never learn. You think you are strong, but you are nothing but insects." He raised a massive energy blade, and in an instant he was charging at Adrian. The final battle had begun. The Empire's arrogance shattered. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The Zarkith facility was moments away from destruction. Alarms blared across the corridors, and emergency sirens howled like dying beasts. Smoke curled through the air as flames consumed everything, licking the metal walls with an eerie red glow. Commander Adrian Holt stood face to face with the Zarkith general, a towering brute of alien muscle and armor. The enemy's eyes burned with arrogance, his blade humming with raw energy. "You are weak, human," the general snarled, stepping forward. "Your species is fragile. You do not understand war." Adrian didn't flinch. He wiped blood from his lip and squared his stance. "Oh, we understand war just fine. You're about to learn how humans fight." The general lunged. Steel met fire. The duel of fate. Their weapons clashed in a blinding arc of sparks. The Zarkith general swung his massive blade in wide, deadly strikes, each one powerful enough to cleave a man in half. But Adrian was faster. He dodged, countered, and struck back with brutal precision. The fight was brutal. Metal against bone. Strength against strategy. A swipe of the Zarkith's blade nicked Adrian's shoulder, searing through his armor. Pain flared, but he gritted his teeth. He refused to fall. Sarah Kane's voice crackled through the comms. "Commander, the charges are set. We have less than 2 minutes before this place blows." Adrian had no time. This fight had to end now. Breaking the monster. The Zarkith general raised his blade for the killing blow, but Adrian was ready. He ducked at the last second, rolling forward and driving his knife straight into the alien's exposed side. The general let out a deafening roar of agony. Adrian twisted the blade. "That's for the kids you stole." The alien staggered, coughing black blood, but still refused to fall. Adrian grabbed his rifle, raised it, and fired 3 precise shots into the general's skull. The towering warrior collapsed, his arrogance shattered, his empire's cruelty answered with death. Escape through fire. Adrian turned, racing back to his team. The enhanced human children, once controlled by the Zarkith, were now free, thanks to Kane's hacking module. They were weak, confused, but alive. Darius Voss waved them forward. "Move. Move. The whole place is coming down." The strike team and the rescued children sprinted through the burning corridors. Explosions erupted behind them, sending fire and debris crashing down. The Zarkith guards left standing tried to stop them, but their will to fight had shattered. They had never seen humans this relentless, this unstoppable. Adrian and his team reached the landing pad, where their dropship hovered just above the ground. The pilot shouted, 30 seconds before the reactor blows. "Get in." One by one, they climbed aboard. Adrian was the last to jump, grabbing the edge of the ramp just as the entire facility exploded in a blinding fireball. The shockwaves slammed into the ship, sending it spiraling upward. The pilot fought for control. Metal groaned under the force. Then, silence. The dropship soared into space, leaving the burning ruins of Sifos 9 behind. A message to the Empire. The TDS Vengeance hovered in orbit, waiting for their return. As the dropship landed in the hangar, the crew erupted in cheers. Humanity had struck back, and won. Adrian removed his helmet, his face streaked with soot and sweat. He turned to the rescued children, pale, exhausted, but safe. "You're going home." The mission was over. But the war? The war had only just begun. As the TDS Vengeance prepared for its next move, Adrian sent a single message to the Zarkith Empire. "You came for our children. Now we're coming for you." Humanity's fury unleashed. The stars above Sifos 9 still burned with the aftermath of battle. But for humanity, this war was far from over. Inside the command deck of the TDS Vengeance, Commander Adrian Holt stood before a holographic war map, his expression carved from stone. The mission had been a success. The children were rescued. The Zarkith base was destroyed. But this wasn't a victory. This was a declaration of war. Across the void, the Zarkith Empire had begun to move. Their fleet, 10 times the size of the human armada, was already on the march. They would not let this insult go unanswered. The galaxy had always believed humans were weak, fragile, insignificant. Now, they would learn the truth. The war machine awakens. The United Terran Council had convened in a classified war room deep within Luna Command, Earth's most fortified military base. Leaders argued. Some still clung to peace, to diplomacy. But then they saw the footage. The stolen children, the Zarkith experiments, the horrors humanity had suffered. The decision was made. Humanity would no longer stand on the sidelines. Factories roared to life. The war machine awakened. Project Revenant, once a hidden fleet, was now humanity's sword. A single message was broadcast across the stars. To the Zarkith Empire, your crimes will not go unpunished. The battle for the void. Days later, deep in the Nix Nebula, a Zarkith fleet of 40 warships patrolled the sector, searching for the humans who had dared to defy them. Their commanders were confident. Humanity had always been outgunned, outnumbered, outmatched. They believed this battle would be an execution, not a war. But then, the shadows moved. From the darkness, the Revenant fleet emerged. Stealth warships decloaked, appearing like ghosts in the black void. The first shots came without warning. Railgun fire, precision missiles, AI-controlled drones tearing through Zarkith defenses. The enemy barely had time to react. Aboard the Vengeance, Adrian Holt stood firm. No mercy. We take them all down. Asterisk. Sarah Kane led the first strike squad, boarding an enemy flagship with cybernetic precision, carving a path through alien warriors. Darius Voss led ground forces, overwhelming Zarkith defenses with tactics no enemy had ever faced. The Zarkith thought this would be easy. Instead, they were being hunted. The turning point. The battle raged for hours. Zarkith ships burned, one after another. Their fleet, once mighty, was now shattered wreckage drifting in space. For the first time in history, a human armada had obliterated an imperial Zarkith force. Across the Empire, shockwaves spread. The Zarkith had never lost a battle against an inferior species before. Their arrogance had blinded them. A warning to the galaxy. As the last Zarkith vessel exploded in flames, Adrian Holt sent one final message across the stars, one that all species would hear. This is only the beginning. The Zarkith thought they could prey on humanity. Now, they were the prey, and humanity's fury was just getting started. Victory, but at a cost. The battlefield was silent. What was once a mighty Zarkith fleet now drifted in shattered ruins across the void. Wreckage floated like dead stars, the remnants of a failed empire's arrogance. Fires burned in the darkness of space, the last embers of a battle humanity was never supposed to win. But humanity had won. Aboard the TDS Vengeance, Commander Adrian Holt stood at the bridge, staring at the aftermath. His face was emotionless, but inside, he felt it, the weight of every life lost, every battle fought. The war was far from over. The enemy's final gambit. Across the stars, the Zarkith High Command had gone silent. Their forces had been crushed. Their fleets had been obliterated. Their pride had been shattered. But they had one last move, a desperate, ruthless decision. Instead of fighting humanity in open war, they would strike at its heart. A massive fleet, the largest Zarkith armada ever assembled, was en route to Earth. This was not an invasion. This was an extermination. They intended to wipe humanity from existence. The defense of Earth begins. The warning came too late. By the time intelligence reports confirmed the incoming Zarkith fleet, they were only hours away. The United Terran Defense Force scrambled everything they had. Every warship, every fighter, every soldier was called to the front lines. But Earth was outgunned, outnumbered, outmatched. Even with humanity's technological advancements, even with Project Revenant's hidden weapons, they were facing an enemy that outnumbered them 20 to 1. Adrian Holt looked at the incoming fleet on his tactical display. He knew the truth. This wasn't a battle. This was survival. The last stand. As the Zarkith fleet emerged from hyperspace, Earth's skies ignited with fire. Massive capital ships unleashed planetary bombardments, shaking the cities below. Orbital defense stations returned fire, but the sheer number of enemy warships was overwhelming. Human pilots launched from the surface, engaging in dogfights above their homeworld. Missiles streaked across the sky, railgun rounds tore through enemy hulls, and the void became a graveyard of ships. But the Zarkith were relentless. Adrian led the Terran fleet from orbit, but they were barely holding the line. Then the unthinkable happened. The Zarkith deployed a superweapon. A massive warship, larger than any ever seen, powered up a planetary annihilation cannon, one shot capable of wiping Earth from existence. The moment Adrian saw it, he knew. This battle was no longer about winning. It was about making sure humanity survived. A commander's sacrifice. Adrian made the call. He took the Vengeance and a handful of warships straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. A suicide run. The mission: destroy the superweapon before it fired. Sarah Kane's voice cracked through the comms. Adrian, don't do this. But he already knew the truth. There was no other way. As they plunged into the enemy's defenses, missiles and railgun fire ripped through the Zarkith lines. The Vengeance's shields failed. Fire erupted across the bridge. Alarms screamed. The ship was breaking apart. But they were close. Adrian gave the final order. Detonate the core. Now. The last thing he saw was the blinding light of the explosion. The price of freedom. The superweapon never fired. The explosion tore through the Zarkith flagship, causing a chain reaction. The enemy fleet, already battered, fell into complete chaos. With their command structure destroyed, the remaining Zarkith forces scattered, retreating into deep space. The war was over. Humanity had survived. But Adrian Holt was gone. The legacy of a warrior. Days later, Earth mourned. Billions watched as Adrian Holt's name was etched into history. But his sacrifice was not in vain. The Zarkith Empire was broken. Their forces shattered, their rule crumbling. And humanity. Humanity had proven what the galaxy refused to believe. They were not weak. They were not prey. They were the storm that could never be stopped. As the stars burned above, one truth remained. They came for our children. Now, we rule the battlefield.